can't understand why he thought this was worthy. Like, I'm gonna take the streets back, or I don't know what he was thinking. But Jehan, what do you think of this Love Symbol album?
No, I agree with everything that everybody said. I mean, My Name is Prince. You're right. It might be the worst song ever recorded, let alone Prince song.
What about Mr. Happy? What about Mr. Happy?
I can take that before I take this.
That I don't know. That's pretty horrific too. But I think even the lyrics in My Name is Prince is like, my name is Prince and I am funky, and it's almost like he didn't write another line after that, which is like, my name is Prince and I am funky, and I have to tell you that because there is nothing funky about this track, and you wouldn't know it unless I told you. It's just terrible album, terrible song. I mean, there are some nice points on it. Sexy MF is, I think I agree with Arthur's view that I'm in two minds about it. There's elements to it. Love to the Nines, I think, has potential. I think the Morning Papers, the outro, the guitar solo at the end is pretty good. Blue Light, I'm not a hater of Blue Light. I know a lot of people hate that. The outro to the Continental, but A God Created Woman, yep, you're right, that's a good track. But other than that, just terrible. What's interesting though is that the reviews at the time, I remember, were really, really good. I remember Rolling Stone gave it like 4 out of 5. Q gave it 4.5, I think. All Music, I think, gave it 4 or 5. Robert Christgau even gave it like 4 or 5 stars. So I never really understood that. But I think this to me represents, that's it. It's a corpse. There is no pulse left. It's gone.
Yeah, I just thought the look of Prince was so ridiculous at this point. You know, you mentioned the typhoon and all that. I think it just took on a ridiculousness to it. And, you know, he had that weird sort of cut beard on his face. You know, it was like the real long lines on the side. It was the single line. What the fuck? It's just irritating. Big Sexy and Sack, take us home on this Love Symbol album.
You know, you mentioned he was trying to take back the streets. He never had the streets. That was never his audience. And, you know, I enjoy elements with this album. I remember the tour when it came to San Francisco at the Civic Auditorium. I loved it. And it was really done in a rock opera sense. The first half of the show was the new stuff, which was lukewarm at best. And then the second half was the hits, and he blew the place up. You know, so it was just too much Tony M. And I'm in the minority here, but I like the hat with the chains. I may rock that in court one day. I don't know. But music that stands out, like Continental and Damn You, I turn around and I see arrogance and I see the flow. What? Too much Tony M. I think there was a portion in, I want to say, the Dance Music Sex Romance book where Fink was quoted as saying Prince was being so influenced by Tony. I think this is the result of that. It's just too much Tony M, even more so when we get to Gold Nigga. It's just like too much Tony M. Dude, you're not good. Let it go.
Yeah, well, you know, I think, too, a lot of it is what was going on at the time musically. You know, hip-hop definitely doing its thing. You know, a few months later, I think The Chronic came out in 92 as well. So, you know, his whole sort of posturing of the gangster glam, right? I mean, that whole sort of thing. He's trying to be that, but at the same time, he's Prince. Like, you know, there's only so much hardcore you're going to be. You know, yeah, you got the gun mic, but at the same point, I mean, you have a perm, you have eyeliner on with the high heel boots. You're not going to be, like you said, you're not going to have the streets. That audience is not for you. You have your own situation. I will agree. I think it was Arthur who said, this is the Prince where extreme confidence. He was a true rock star at this point and knew it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just everything about him was very over the top. If you look at what's going on behind the scenes, he's got all these women and things. You know, we didn't mention the whole, those 2 women that he had. You know, his whole presence was that he was doing some sort of menage a trois, right? Like he's not only am I doing this music, but I got 2 chicks. I got 2 white girls. Okay,
right.
Like so
do what you do.
His whole thing was already on this other sort of stuff, mixing that with some weird quasi Middle Eastern princess story of a young girl that he's bringing up, and she's about to hit 18, so I can tap that. It was all over the place. Like I know what he was thinking, but it was crazy. So, and then he does his tours during this period, and isn't he doing like the Act 1,
Act 1 and Act 2
sort of thing? And I never saw those shows. I just got to read about them, but they just look like, okay, you got the Game Boys going ham on the mic, and it's just all over the place. But all of this sort of accumulates to the point where he's got problems going on with Warner Brothers, right? It's starting to be something starting to seep through, like there's something not right here. And that brings us to what is next here. And so let's keep moving on. Well, I will add, too, that after the Love Symbol album, the Gold Nigga album comes out, sold at concerts, and I believe at his store that he had at Paisley Park. But that was straight on MPG, Tony M spotlighted, rap. The title alone is absurd for Gold Nigga. So he obviously heavily influenced by, again, what's going on in music, in black music. He thinks that, okay, I got to come as we niggas. We got to come like that, Now, I will say there's maybe a couple tracks in there that I really sort of like. I think they're funny. I think Black MF's in the house. and Prince is sort of rapping in this sort of country ridiculousness. That's sort of hilarious to me, but that album is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if you guys anything to say about Gold Nigga at all.
Nothing.
Guess who the production the production on the Guess Who's Knocking on the Door or something? Mm-hmm. That hook is kind of tight, but like I said, too much Tony M. It's just that's the Tony M album as far as I'm concerned.
But do you guys think that if Tony M didn't exist, or if he hadn't met Tony M, do you think his material would be any different at this point? Like, are we laying all the blame at Tony's door?
I don't think it'd be any different, personally.
I disagree. I think Tony was really an influence because Prince has shown over the years that sometimes someone, I'm not trying to rip anybody today, but someone will get in the camp and either knowingly or by implication guide the music. That happened with Larry Graham. It happened with Tony. Mm-hmm. It happened with Sonny T on Exodus. So it does happen.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, being influenced by that. I mean, every musician is influenced by somebody. Even some of the greatest artists get influenced by, other people. Hell, Miles Davis was known for a certain style, and he got hooked into, James Brown and Herbie Hancock and those guys, and his direction changed. So there's nothing wrong with that. It just seems like the guy that Prince chose to be inspired from in this particular time took him down the wrong direction in this case.
And I would think, too, I just think Prince's overall lack of respect for hip-hop is the overall problem. Like, if he really just said, you know what, I don't really know this music. Yeah, I think in his mind, you can look at the Black Album, I'm a musician. I'm Prince. These cats ain't doing nothing. Like, I could do this. This ain't nothing.
That's a lot. That's, and I think that's his.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the attitude of a lot of musicians at that time. And he was sitting between a rock and a hard place. I mean, with what we're talking about, it was NWA's Niggas for Life. That was number one when Diamonds and Pearls was getting put out. And for the whole Gold Nigga thing, it was the Chronic. Mm-hmm. He was in a difficult position. Mm-hmm. And we're at the advent of Bad Boy. We're at the advent of Wu-Tang Clan. It wasn't going to get any easier, So, yeah, I think that the combination of the competition, A, B, his lack of respect for hip-hop, and C, the fact that he's got this multi-million-dollar contract with Warner Brothers that he's got to fulfill. And as far as he's concerned, they're tripping. And as far as Warner's concerned, he's tripping.
Which leads us to, Could You Be? So, Beautiful Girl in the World. Here's Prince. He comes to Warner Brothers. He's like, hey, I got this album called Come, ready to go. And then also, I got this other thing called The Gold, and that's ready to go. And can y'all put that? Hell no. They're like, no. We're not putting 2 records out same time, month. No, slow down. Let's do a greatest hits sort of thing. Let's regroup. And so he probably, I'm just speculating, I would imagine at this point, he just takes that as I'm going to take that as a diss, as I'm quoting Pac. Take that as a diss. Goes out, they let him put out Beautiful Girl in the World. Puts that song out. Song becomes a nice hit for him. It's like, whoa, what do you know? And he changes his name. Now, I'm going to throw another signal post. I think this is another point in the history of Prince where it's like, doing, things change. A couple things change. One, the band some people get deleted. The band gets a little smaller. Prince changes his look. Again, this is the last time he really actually changes his look. He's got the whole Halle Berry thing going on. And they put this song out and it is successful for him. And I will say that there is a concert that he does that sort of signals, hey, this is some new shit coming. It was the All-Star Weekend performance they did at Paisley Park when the All-Star game was in Minnesota. And Prince does a concert and he debuts a lot of these new songs. This concert accumulates into the sort of mini movie called the Beautiful Experience that he does, and it has Nona Gay and stuff. So this stuff drops. This is 94. I think this is the signal of, yes, I have a new style. The music was a little different. He's rapping again on a number of tracks. Specifically Days of Wild. And now the band is more of a funk-based sort of stuff. They're actually doing covers of Larry Graham stuff, right? It's the first time, whoa, doing some Larry Graham, okay. And again, I think this is a point where his music changes again. It is not the same as those past 2 previous albums. And he's dropping, in my mind, when I first see this movie, the Beautiful Experience, heat. I was like, whoa, this guy is dope. Like when I hear them do that Tevin Campbell song, Shh, and he jumps in with that solo, I was done. I was like, why isn't this out? What's going on? When they show Acknowledge Me on that show, this is dope. I mean, it's in the New Jack Swing sort of thing, but it's Prince style, got the horn. Dope. What the fuck is going on? When they do Race, that video's on there. Whoa. Like, what? This is dope. Days of Wild, I thought was filthy. Like he's rapping again, but I can accept this. I know it just seemed like he had gotten better or something. I thought it was brilliant. I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. Now, it doesn't come out for a while, but if you guys have seen that and seen it in retrospect, speak to me. I'm gonna go to Big Ken first. What was going through your head when you saw these songs? You heard these songs?
Well, unfortunately for me, I wasn't privy to. I didn't get a chance to check out that little film at the time that it was released. I caught it later, right? So I just came into this stuff when he, on an album by album basis, when he released, Come as okay. Come first. Mm-hmm. I love this period. Now, and you and I have talked about this at length on the show before. You guys know how I feel about this period. I think this period from 94, between 94 and 95, the stuff that appears on Come, Gold Experience, Chaos and Disorder, and some of it actually ends up on Crystal Ball. I love this period because I love the cohesiveness of that band. Like you said, there's more of a bottom to it, a little more. But that's a lot to do with Sonny T in there on bass. Some more tight-knit crew. I'm not going to put them up above the Revolution, but I'm just saying they had a nice rapport with each other. He seemed energized in the songs that he was putting out. You can tell just by the prolificness of it, the abundance of material that he was writing at the time he was coming up with. He was just on this new thing. And, remember also at this period of time, Exodus, when he did the Exodus album, with the Mpg, which is basically him doing that same crew doing that same thing. he was doing that Glam Slam Ulysses. Was it a play or something like that? Some type of play production, some kind of production he was doing with all basically the music that comprised the Come album. He had the Undertaker thing going on. So this whole period to me is great. To me, this signaled maybe a possible resurrection to the Prince that I used to know at this point. And I was glad that he jettisoned, the Tony M and the Typhoon and all that. And yeah, he was still rapping, like you said, on Days of Wild. But you're right, I could accept that a little bit more because it did seem a little bit better. I still cringe at certain things that he would say, and certain, the certain delivery of certain lyrics are just kind of like, you're not quite there yet, bruh. But, okay, at least he's getting a little bit better.
Okay.
So overall, I like this period a lot, man. This period I listen to quite frequently still to this day.
All right. And in fairness, let's include Come into this. I'm going to go to Jehan, but let me throw this in there before I say that. So, again, and this is, bootlegs are really starting to be out there at this point. And just before Come, that movie had came out, I think it's shown on Japanese TV. A lot of these songs started trickling on, and the internet is very early starting to peek its head, and the Prince community is coming up. So a lot of these songs are sort of out there, and he's doing a lot of shows. Now, I will say, just before Come, I had in my brain what the Come album was going to be like because, again, he's already put a lot of these songs out there in whatever form of fashion. So I'm like, Come album is going to be so ridiculous. It's about to be, it's going down. Come album comes out. I'm going to go to Jehan. Jehan, what did you think when you first heard Come? Now, I don't know if you had a chance to see the beautiful experience or whatever, but your answer will tell us what was your take on Come?
I hated it. I hate every song on this album. I hate the concept. I think he's at his most. It's like he's very, very confident, but he's also very, very self-conscious at the same time. I think that some of the songs are in fact grotesque. Like I think Come, the track is the outro or whatever is where you hear all those extra kind of, noises. It's just grotesque. And, he's never, there's been times when he's been in your face, for example, on subjects like masturbation or incest or whatever. But I always felt there was at least a veneer of panache that he would throw onto it. But over here, it was just so bottom feeding, so basic to me. I really thought that I flicked it on and then I just threw the album away. And in the interest of full disclosure, I didn't hear it again until I knew that we were going to be on this show, and I thought, well, I better listen to it again in case in case I missed something. And I for me and my taste, I didn't miss anything. I called it right on the first day. And in fact, I mean, I didn't like anything. I can definitely talk about the other albums, but I didn't like anything at all on any of these albums really until Emancipation. I think it was like 2 tracks on the Gold Experience. Wow. So I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, for me, no, it's a no-no.
Very interesting. Author, what's your take on Come?
I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. When I first heard Come, I was like, yes, thank you. It was well, first of all, Let It Go. The return of Eric Leeds. I understand that he was on Get Off, but yeah, whatever. The return of Eric Leeds on flute. A Prince programmed beat, a Prince beat. It was a breath of fresh air. It did signal the paring down of the band for me. It signaled. Now I'm kind of getting into the actual album. Come. It signaled a return to a more rock, guitar, drum, bass, trio oriented type of music. A little less keyboard, which definitely resonated. With me. I didn't mind Space, but didn't necessarily care for it. Didn't particularly like the one with Race. Don't really like Race. Did like Papa. Liked one other one that I kind of. It's gonna be weird. John's gonna probably roll his eyes into the back of his skull, but I actually liked Solo. I don't know. I really don't know why, but it was like
I mean, that had potential, but
right. But it was like I liked solo. But the earlier songs, there were these two instrumentals. One was Loose. Loose. I liked if it was an instrumental. It didn't need any vocal on it. Definitely not that vocal that was on there. And then there was the one Pheromone that was used. I first heard it as the theme for that BET show. I like that. I like that genuinely as is. But also keep in mind, this is the same kind of time span in 1994 that he had that interactive video, that CD-ROM that was released. And a lot of these songs and snippets of these songs from the Come Project bled into there, along with an alternate Endorphin Machine and Interactive. That was a great song with that unit. The cohesion between Prince's guitar, Sonny T's bass, and Michael Bland as a drummer was fabulous. I mean, Michael Bland is the precursor for my favorite Prince drummer of all time, which is John Blackwell. He just needs that power with that, with that kind of music. But it was kind of a standalone record for me, one that I personally liked. But I knew that it wasn't a great record. You know what I mean? But it was a great record for me.
Okay. Big Sexy and Sack. What do you think?
That time period, we didn't have the internet really with a lot of information. I had the interactive CD-ROM. I still have it. But I remember I was getting into bootlegs too, and I would go into Berkeley up onto Telegraph at Amoeba Records, and they would have just a treasure trove. And I picked up Interactive Night, and that was the first time I heard Days of Wild. I'm like, okay, what is this? Where is this? Then I just stumbled across Come one day at Tower back here in Sacramento, and I played it. I'm like, fuck is this? There was no build-up. There was no publicity for it. There was no support. A couple of songs, I like Space. I like the guitar solo in Loose. And I'm with Jehan. Is the ending of Come. Really? I mean, come on, man. That's just some bullshit. So I'm gonna watch porn.
He did the same thing on Let's Pretend We're Married with all the sounds. Same thing.
Let's Pretend We're Married had music and a theme built up around.
No, I'm not talking about the music. I'm talking about the sounds. If you listen to the 12 girl, get it on that.
You've got Lady Cab Driver as well. I agree, but it's. I don't know. It was like pornography on Come. It was just like it was just ridiculous. It was just so low rent to me.
And what's funny about that is that's vanity, right? Like, I mean, that was from back in the days that you,
right, from Vibrator, right?
Yeah. So the Come album, my perspective on the Come album, I was highly disappointed when I heard it because it didn't have all those songs. It didn't have Acknowledge Me. I was like, where's Acknowledge Me? It didn't. Now, the version of Come on there, I love. I think that is brilliant. But the version of Come that was on the movie is totally different, like almost like a house sort of a thing. It didn't have Days of Wild. Like, right. I was like, where's Days of Wild? Like, where's I hate to say where was Now, because, I just have those live versions. Where's all these songs? But the other thing that album didn't have, it didn't have Prince, and in terms of the presentation of it, because there was no videos released, right? Like, Let It Go, he didn't support that. He didn't even play. He didn't even play it. You ain't ever saw him. He didn't know TV at all that I can think of.
The art direction was terrible. I mean, those photos were from that book, the Sacrifice of Victor book.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like the Let It Go 12-inch cover. That was kind of tight. He's on the roof somewhere, like Romania or somewhere, where the hell he is. But he's got this cane and shit. I don't know what that is.
And he kills himself on the cover, right? I mean, he's saying that he died. Prince is dead.
Yeah.
So this whole it was just very weird. I was like, what sort of shit is this? See,
that's what happens when mom and dad fight in front of the children. You know what I mean? Yep. You don't know what's going on. Something's going on. But mom's trying to really mask it, but dad's acting up, and then they switch sides. Mom's now starting to trip. And so.
So Arthur, who's mom and who's dad here? Is Prince's dad, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, yeah, dad wants to go off on his own and try new things because he's just not in love anymore. And mom's like, look, you're not really thinking of the big picture here. We got children, we got stuff we got to take care of. Let's see this through and then deal with it after the fact. I'm not, man, I don't know. It was just a weird time, man. I mean, Warner puts out this ad to promote Gold Experience, sort of, mocking Prince for doing, the beautiful experience, and then Prince returns fire. And they're spending money, right? Because they're running these ads in Billboard.
Right.
And so, as the forget the consumer, because Prince, at a certain time, there was a part where Prince was like not relevant at all.
Well, I think at this time he's probably not to people. They don't really understand what's going on.
The way that I see it, Prince's relevancy peaked right at the what do they call it? The Love Symbol album, the Symbol album, and fell off during the hits and the B-sides. And let me just say that the release of Pink Cashmere is probably one of Prince's best slow jams ever.
Saving grace of that release.
Yeah. But Come, the re-release of the Black Album, the Gold Experience. Outside of I Hate You being a single, I don't think that was really a big deal for anybody, And it wasn't until he did that. I don't mean to jump too far, but I'm just saying that reappearance on Oprah brought him back into the public eye.
Sure.
And now he was this new, fresh-faced, maybe he's a grieving father, Prince that really is a human being, But the periods between 1993 and 1990, let's say 7, nobody cared about Prince.
Well, and I think it's a conscious effort on Prince's part to like turn his nose and turn his back to like, I'm not going to be seen. Like, I'm not going to help sell these records, which I think was disruptive for him. But I mean, he adopts this Torah sort of thing. He's doing his appearances behind a veil on his face. I think it's all his sort of sort of, pouting thing against Warner Brothers, and his fans are feeling the brunt of that, and he pays the price of it. But I think musically, though, in terms of the music he made, I actually think the music that he made was brilliant. I think the problem was for him, by the time these records come out, one, he doesn't want Warner Brothers to succeed, and two, he doesn't care at the time when these albums drop and come and the Golden Experience comes out. He's so far removed from them, he doesn't care, and he's not going to support the records. But if you go back and look at the stuff, I think that this great work. I want to play another thing. I mentioned earlier about Herbie Love Bug, Salt and Pepper. There was obviously something going on with Prince and Salt and Pepper to the point that he was really a fan of theirs, or I don't know what the deal was, but there's two times when he covers their songs. And both are dope to me. And I'm going to speak about the Glam Slam birthday concert that he did. I think it was like 3 nights, and they were simulcast between the clubs and satellite or something like that. But he did these performances, concerts, 3 different nights, and there's brilliant stuff going on. One of the performances that always sticks with me is he does Salt and Pepper's Shoop, which was, I guess, big at the time. And I don't know if you guys seen this, but he has the band turn on sort of like the loop of the song, the beat or whatever, and first he starts rapping over it. Like, he immediately pulls out some paper and is literally reading off this paper. But then he gets his bass guitar and he goes in on that's like when he really starts pulling that the one eye bass out. And he commenced to funk the hell out of that track. And, he's got Sonny T and all those guys up there, Tommy Barbarella and them on the organ. I mean, that stuff is ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen that, but madness. That's why I was like, this band is sick. Like, almost reminds me of like what you would hear D'Angelo and these guys in the Roots do later. He was kind of doing that, but then he had like sort of breakbeat sort of stuff underneath it. I thought it was very interesting. The other one is, and I'll play a little bit here, during that All-Star Weekend show that I talked about, he closes his show with Salt and Pepper song. I don't know if they were supposed to come up on stage, whatever the case may be, But I just thought that it was hilarious and actually like in that real quirky sort of Prince way, very sort of funky the way he does it. So I'll play a little bit of that just to illustrate.
Mike,
go ahead.
Mike, before you play it,
Yes, sir.
let me ask Jehan this. During this time, Prince was overseas in Europe a lot. I have footage of him on the White Room and other things. He would do interviews with Veronica Webb. Was his music over there more relevant than it was here during that time?
Yeah, I think certainly, because I remember in the 80s, it was really a small group of us who liked Prince or who loved Prince. You had to be into soul and funk to really dig him. But then I remember in the 90s, a lot of people in my social circle started liking him, even those who weren't into soul and funk. So I think he definitely broadened his appeal in Europe at that time.
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, I'm going to back it up and play just a little bit of this. This is another thing here. I'll just let it play.
All right, you motherfuckers. We gonna kick some shit. Turn the piano up. Wait a minute. Kick drum. What you think, Jimmy James? Kick drum. Bring me back. Dang. Something kicked in. Yeah. It's all good. Kick drum. You talked him into this, didn't you? Bring me back, man. Come on. Kick drum.
Now I'm going to jump ahead to him.
Okay, somebody. I don't want none of my business. This ain't none of my business. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Let's do this. 2, 3. We're gonna take it out with this one. Much props to Salt Pepper. Much props to Tevin Campbell. Soul Asylum in the place. You look like you want to say something. Say what?
All right. So I play that stuff to say, like, he was just like all over the place musically, doing different stuff. Jehan, I'm curious, have you heard this stuff before?
No, I haven't heard that before.
I'm going to get you a copy of this. I think
Thank you, man.
Go ahead, sir.
If we're passing out copies, you know.
Hey, just give me the title. I think I have that buried in my stack somewhere, but just give me the title.
Yeah, it's somebody's got me on speaker or something because we got an echo going on here.
You do?
Check. There we go. All right. So, again, there was some amazing performances during that time. So we talked about Come. You know, what comes after Come actually is the Black Album. You know, here we are years later. Warner Brothers releases this. And, of course, this is part of Prince's deal to sort of kind of get out of his contract. and they're allowed to release this album. Briefly, Author, what did you think when the Black Album was officially released?
Well, I was happy about it in that I had a pristine CD copy. I had the copy. What was it? I had a cassette copy that was given to me by Miko Weaver's sister in 1988. And so I knew the Black Album. I wasn't surprised about what was coming. The quality of the CD version was pretty similar to the quality of my original cassette, so I was kind of geeked that I actually had the real thing, you know. But it was bittersweet because the Black Album single-handedly made Prince the most bootlegged artist. Probably his only competitor was probably either Springsteen or definitely, you know, the Grateful Dead. And it kind of stripped away more of the mythic quality of what makes Prince Prince. That very few people had actual copies of it. It was also bittersweet because even though it was branded a limited edition, and it was, I don't remember 5,000 copies were made, but because of the desensitized Prince that we had now with all this open infighting with Warner Brothers, you know, no one cared. No one was that concerned that this album was finally coming out, and it did not get the recognition that it ultimately deserves, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. Big Ken, what you think, Big Ken?
About the Black Album, pretty much the same. I mean, I was glad to get pristine copies of, you know, the songs. I mean, I had one of those bootlegs I bought in some mom and pop local record store near where I live, and made do with those for a while. But I just think, you know, it was kind of like too little, too late. You know what I mean? I mean, that should have been released earlier, and then for it to come out then after, you know, I hate to say it, at this point, Prince, I don't want to call him an afterthought, but, you know, his stock, so to speak, in the music world had dropped at this point. You know what I mean? Because he was doing the whole slave thing, and it was news about his fight with Warner Brothers. It's overshadowed everything, just like Arthur said. So, it was bittersweet. That's the best way to describe it. It's bittersweet.
All right. Well, Jehan and Big Sexy, do you have anything to add on the Black Album?
Not me. You know, it was, like you said, too little, too late. I remember seeing it in Berkeley, and, you know, it was like the myth was bigger than the actual release. Because when the release came out, you know, he was 6 years past that, so it really wasn't that big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, I love the album. It's one of my favorite Prince albums, top 3 for me, but yeah, in 1994, slightly different context. So, yeah.
All right. The next thing that comes out, not necessarily a Prince album, but I think it's important in this time frame, was the Mpg Exodus album. And, you know, this had, you know, The Good Life, Count the Days, Cherry Cherry, and sort of thing. I remember buying this. This was probably one of the first sort of import albums that I really seeked out to buy. Because it was not released in America, but I remember getting the CD, and I used to play this heavy. We got a lot of background noise going on. Somebody's moving around or something. But I used to play this album heavy. Like, I thought that The Good Life, I was like, oh, here's Prince again. He's got another, this would be a good song. Like, this song could be dope. Like, I don't understand. Return of the Bump Squad, you know, Jehan, again, this is one of those albums I believe that actually came out in your area. Did you have this? Did you remember?
Yeah, I do. I mean, again, I don't like the album. I don't like I don't like the songs on it or the production. But one thing I will say about it, and I noticed it at the time as well, was the musicianship is on point. You know, there's not much you can say against that. But I think just production and sound-wise, style-wise, and composition, it just sounds too polished for me. It's like this whole period, to me, even the stuff that I like in the period, like, for example, Emancipation or, right up until the Rainbow Children, he had lost his rawness. You know, he'd lost that edge, I think, that edge in his sound where it didn't sound perfect. It sounded like Sign of the Times is a badly recorded album in many ways.
Right.
But I think, to me, the musicianship was great, but everything else, including the sound and the whole aesthetic, was just too clean and pristine, and it wasn't him, again, to me.
Arthur, what did you think about the album?
Honestly, I have never heard that album.
Interesting.
I heard about it, and I know, right? It's like, man, why are you even on this show?
No.
You can have my copy. Arthur, you can have my copy, man.
But truth be told, this period for me reminds me of this is probably not the best analogy, but Jimi Hendrix's Electric Ladyland sessions, where he had there was a lot of recording that was going on with a diverse body of musicians, diverse sounds and styles, and I saw Prince doing these kinds of projects. Like you talked about the Undertaker project, earlier. And it's like, why didn't this song come out? Why didn't this song come out? It's like every album we've talked about so far, it has been like, why didn't he do it this way? Why did he hold on to that? And so looking back on that period, I really look at it as a period of a lot of experimentation, almost honing his craft, because now, his live shows are experiences. They sell out within an hour of them being announced, within a day of them actually happening. And he's translating this kind of prowess and power and these ideas that are being worked out on stage back in the studio to kind of see how they sound, to later produce, proper albums. So it's for me at that time, hearing about it, reading about it, at that time, the internet was still fledgling. So, now we're in, bulletin board material kind of a thing. But, I did not desire the work. I guess that's what it really was. This whole period, I did not desire the work. It became to where I didn't care if I had the albums on release day. If I got them, I got them. Okay, really no big deal, and I was just kind of biding my time, trying to wade, through this period until he figures out what it is that he really wants to do.
Interesting about the shows you bring up, because, just from my reading and stuff, the shows were literally, I'm playing the new stuff. I'm not playing none of those songs you hear. I'm playing songs from Gold, the Exodus stuff, and audiences are like, okay, this is good, but what is, I don't know this stuff, and he just, and I found that was pretty odd and brave for him to do that for songs that really had no release date. Man, it's like, I don't know, I'm playing this new stuff. You're gonna either love it or too bad for you. He even had a whole, stage show was the endorphin machine. The uterus, and it was just on some other stuff. What was I gonna say? This album, the Exodus album, was almost gonna come out in America. I remember BET started playing the Good Life video. They also started playing Count the Days. And I believe Warner actually even released the Good Life as a single, right? And they had the, I remember the Big City remix was the sort of the rap, another rap sort of thing from Prince, but it had Ice Cube sample in it. And I always remember he kind of clowned on Michael a little bit in the song, or something about Tito got your tissue or something like that. Big Ken, I know you have this album. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I got the Exodus album. I got to it later though. I didn't get it when it first came out because honestly, I didn't see it in any stores near me where I used to live at that time. So I picked it, got it later. But I like it. I mean, it's to me again, it's the same. It's an extension of that same crew doing what they did and Come and get and Gold Experience and so forth. Not every song is great, but the songs that are pretty good, like Good Life and Big Fun and stuff like that, they're pretty funky in my opinion. And I think this album actually has some of Prince's best bass work, on it. He's doing some really good stuff on the bass in this album. So I like it.
Yeah, and the last thing I add, this album was heavy. A lot of his albums this time was heavy on the little, what do they call it? Things in between the song? Interludes. Like,
Yeah.
Heavy.
One of them is hilarious though.
One is very hilarious, and Prince is sort of like he's at talking to some mafioso dude or something, and he tells a super long story. But anyway, the other sort of thing that happens at this time is he goes on David Letterman, and he does Dolphin. And I always remember I remember they announced it was going to be on there. I remember rushing home from work late at night and to get home so I could watch this. And I remember David Letterman holding up a copy of the Gold Experience. It was well before the album ever came out. He's like, "You're probably never going to get this album, but he's here to play a song off it. Here you go." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And he does Dolphin, and then he like shoots him, or Maite shoots him at the end or whatever. Again, I'm like, I like this song, but I'm like, when am I gonna get this music? Like, what is this dude doing?
I thought that performance was cold when Maite just drags him off the stage.
Yes.
I was like, damn.
Yeah.
What was even colder was the look on David Letterman's face. Like, what the hell was that?
He was like, well, thank you.
And this is heavy in that whole slave. Again. At the time, I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Like, what? I just was like, man, we don't get no music. So let's go up to the release, September 26, 1995. The Gold Experience finally comes out. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
On the Exodus project, I think, like we said earlier, it was a lot of Sonny T being pushed to the forefront, but a lot of this was George Clinton inspired.
Yes.
This was like an homage to Parliament Funkadelic. And that's, for me, was something different. He was doing, the little bits and pieces we're hearing on bootleg, but he comes out with this Funkadelic deal, which I thought was good because I think Sonny T is a musician, so he more or less warranted some shine as opposed to Tony M on Goldnigger.
And Sonny T is basically singing these songs, which he was, I'm sure he just following a guide track, but at the same point, he is sort of the star of this record, right? Like.
Oh yeah.
But he was known to be a hero, a childhood hero of Prince's, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, and he was kind of like that older cat musician dude that was real cold and run the neighborhood. And it's like, oh yeah, you got a Sonny T. He's the dude. And then so he brings him in the band. I thought that was great. So let's go to the Gold Experience. That album drops. I Hate You. Well, actually, no. Before we do that, Prince also does another sort of TV appearance that was sort of like a shocker to me at the time, at least. The American Music Awards. Warner Brothers releases, what was that song called? And it had like, it was sort of like a tribute sort of song, and it encompasses...
Purple Medley.
Purple Medley comes out. And this is heavy in the Prince is Dead sort of thing. And Prince gets Warner's to release the Purple Medley single. And basically Prince is just re-recording bits and pieces of his classic songs into this one song. So they get up there and do that. Actually, it's a performance of that. Carmen Electra is in the camp at this time, and she's up there dancing. And then, it's announced that Prince is dead, and Maite comes out. And then here's the new Prince again. He does like 319, Billy Jack Bitch. And then he does I don't know if I'm doing it in the right order, but he does I Hate You. I remember when watching that, I was blown away. I mean, I thought these songs were amazing. I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? And, boom, it was over. And then there was nothing. It was like, I don't know if it was a year later to that album came out, but I was like, whoa, this guy's got heat. Where is it at? So anyway, we come to the Gold Experience. Finally, I Hate You was released as a single. No video released for this, though later we realized there is a video. Jehan, I'm going to go back to you again. The Gold Experience album. Did you get this one?
Yep, I have this one too. Again, all of this is after the fact, but the tracks that I like on it, I think is incredible. Incredible. I even like the Tevin Campbell version. In fact, I think I've got on videotape somewhere Tevin Campbell performing it at the time when it was released, and he killed it. But you could see that he was performing it. He was giving his best Prince impression in performing it. But yeah, whenever Prince has done it, even to this day when Prince performs it, I think it's a terrific song. Same with Same with I Hate You. I think that's a great song. Particularly the single version with the Quiet Storm mix with Eric Leeds on it. But apart from that, like I want to like it. I really want to, because a lot of Prince fans that I respect, they think this is a great album, but I just can't. And even in doing the research for this show, I really tried hard, and I got stuck on Billy Jack Bitch, and I was trying to listen to it. I was thinking, hang on, no, come on, this is almost like DMSR. Mm-hmm. It's almost there. And I was really trying to persuade myself that it was DMSR, 94 or 95 or whatever, and it just didn't get there for me.
I will add to the song Shh, the little clips I played earlier from that performance. Mm-hmm. He does that song sort of at the midway point of that concert, and that's the version they're mimicking that on the Gold album to play it like he played on that concert. Wow. But in that concert version, I think they were actually trying to get Tevin to come up on stage. For whatever reason, he doesn't come up there. So Prince does the song, and he kills it, and he does this whole guitar thing in the middle, just destroys it. Now, I say this to say that was so much of a head bust that there's a few stations in Black radio in '84 who started playing that version from that concert. Like, they were given that version to play. And so they started playing on the radio the year before, and then he redoes it for this album. So yeah, you are right. That is his take on that song was amazing, and I'll listen to you. But
do you like the Tevin version, the recorded version?
I was a fan of it. I remember buying that Tevin album when it came out, and for some reason when I first heard it, I don't know why I thought it was I'll Be Sure. I just I didn't think Tevin would do something like this, but yeah, I did like it. And I remember when I saw this mini movie and Prince does it, I was just aghast, like, whoa, well, he just jacked that song back. Like, it's not a Tevin song anymore. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing song. Author, what did you think of the Gold Experience?
Pardon me. I liked it, but it was kind of it was a so-so or whatever. It was really the album that was like, I knew was out, and I got it when I got it. I didn't like rush out to go get it. I was already familiar with Endorphin Machine, which was slightly different on that album than on the CD-ROM version. But when I first heard the Tevin song, which is so weird to say. Yeah, have you heard that Prince song? Shh. What? No. Shh. But yeah, I was blown away. I sat up straight because he was really coming with it. I was disappointed with Billy Jack Bitch. I didn't pretty much care for 319. I actually liked Shy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good track.
I love that.
Yeah, I liked Shy, and that pretty much rounded out. I didn't particularly like Gold. And you know what? I was trying to find, because I never heard it, but the B-side that he did, Rock and Roll is Alive?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I never heard that, because, see, that was the same year that Lenny Kravitz put Circus out, which I think that's probably his best album. And that was like a response track to that, but I had never heard it, I just think that the Gold Experience was a solid release for him, probably good for him at the time, but also the only release that really made sense as being the end of the funnel from all of that previous material that he had been recording since 1993.
All right, I'm gonna throw my version of snobbery onto this, just to add. So there was another thing you brought up. Shy, maybe remember about this. I can't think of whatever TV show Prince was going to make an appearance on, but there is video of this. There is a rehearsal that they do for this show, which is amazing because the first part of it, I believe, is just the band, and Prince is not there, and they're running through a lot of these songs. And the interesting thing about this band is that, to me, was more of a return. Yes, all these guys are musicians, but they was heavily using a lot of sequencing and programming with them playing live on top of it, which can be very difficult to do. But they did it excellently, so they were able to really capture the actual sounds from the record, but adding on top of it and still having that jam aspect to it. But then there's a point, and I bring this up to say that they do Shy on there, though Prince is not there, but the band just plays the music. It's dope. There's a point when Prince walks into the rehearsal, and I believe they're getting ready to do Acknowledge Me. And he immediately just picks up the bass, and it just shutting it down. Like, dude, it's ridiculous. And he just goes into this whole funk bass thing on top of it for a while. It's amazing. I'm starting to losing a train of thought. Oh, so I wanted to say the Gold, just to be clear, the Come album and the Gold album. You know, the original intent that Prince had for these records is he wanted Warner Brothers to release Gold, and then maybe like a month later, they would put out Come under the symbol and be like, okay, Come, yeah, Prince died. And now a month later or whatever, here's this music that's even more better. And it's the rebirth sort of re-thing. So they were to come out right after one after the other. It was supposed to be like a 1-2 punch. But being that this got separated almost a year or two separate, yeah, it sort of seemed like a dump of here's these songs. And, you know, at this point, Prince has already recorded Emancipation, could care nothing less about the Gold Experience. But I just wanted to throw that out to make sure everybody's understanding that. Big Ken, the Gold Experience.
Well, you know I love the album, man, so there's not really much to say. I was hyped to get it because I was lucky enough to get a pre-release copy similar to the one Arthur got for that other album back in the day. So that just added to my pleasure of it. But again, it's the same thing with with Come and Exodus, and to me, Chaos and Disorder as well. It's that same crew. You hear them stretch out a little bit more. You hear that same continuity between them. And to me, it's just quality songs. I mean, like you guys mentioned, Billy Jack Bitch, I love that. I like Gold. I like I Hate You, Shy, 319. Dolphin, I think, is a great song. Endorphin Machine. You already mentioned the Tevin Campbell cut. Hell, I even like Now, which is, I was surprised that I would even like that one. So, I mean, I think it's a great album.
All right, Big Sexy. I want you to comment on, Gold, but also bring us into what your thoughts were in Chaos and Disorder. And I put these two together because, again, I think last year there was a bootleg that surfaced that pretty much showed that a lot of those tracks were all seamless together. A lot of the Chaos and Disorder tracks were going to be on the Gold album and vice versa. So go ahead and give us your thoughts on those two.
Well, at the time, Prince was, not production-wise, but as far as presentation-wise, was very fragmented. I remember seeing Prince on Soul Train, and he did a lot of things. I think he did Now There. I see him doing P Control on the VH1 Fashion Awards, and I did enjoy the Gold album. I loved the Love for One Another short form video that VH1 did. And then when we go into Chaos and Disorder, it was known at the time this was just to fill the contract. That's it. There was no real promotion other than the appearance on Today's Show, where he did Dinner with Dolores and Xana Lee, and actually got the video for Dinner with Dolores. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it just looks really, really not low tech, really cheaply done. And he clearly wasn't involved with it. He wasn't invested in it. And the album suffered from that because I haven't really listened to it a lot until today to get ready for this. And granted, a lot of that stuff could have done better on Gold Experience, but because he showed a lack of effort, it reflected on me, and I showed a lack of effort in it too.
Yeah, I think that's a lot with this era was that he just seemed disconnected from the records, so we didn't think nothing about it. He wasn't around for Come, so it didn't. And then the presentation of it is like Prince is dead. Okay, Gold Experience. There wasn't any videos. You didn't see him go on TV or anything for it. There's no tour, so it didn't seem like it mattered or something. I think that has a lot to do with our perception of some of this music. Yeah, I mean, it was separated, but just if you just even looked at it album for album, there never seemed like there was anything of him to do with the records. There wasn't really any interviews, nothing. I mean, I think the one interview that he did that was sort of major was well before any of these albums came out, and he was on the cover of Vibe magazine, right? and he mentions these albums in there, but they never come out. And then you get Beautiful Girl. So I think that disconnect is a big part of the situation. Chaos and Disorder, Mr. Author. What did you think of this album?
Yeah, when I first got it, I wanted to throw it out, but I didn't. I kept it